Big Poppy scores in his return to Scotiabank Arena as the Leafs beat the Blackhawks. We'll recap the game and give our Four Nations Cup Team Canada projections. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morisuti. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. What's going on, Dave? How we feeling on a Tuesday?
Feeling pretty good. I guess maybe we got to stop complaining about these Amazon Prime games, though.
No, I mean, they just keep winning, I guess.
Yeah, 3 for 3, man.
3 in a row, yeah, 3-0, I guess, on Amazon Prime. Yeah, they are playing pretty well on these nights, but it is annoying just having to I like to channel surf, especially you got Monday Night Football going on. So you channel surf in between.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do that when you're on Primes. You gotta get out of the app. You gotta go to this. It's such a hassle. It's a pain in the ass. That's the real issue. It's like I have it. It's just first world problems ultimately, but
it doesn't fit with our TV watching style. Let's just say
no.
I just remember back in the day, I used to have an old Sony TV where you had picture in picture, where you had like the big, your normal size screen, and then in the little corner you have your square screen. And we used to be able to switch back and forth between the two. So you'd have one setting, and it was so cool. I remember that being such great technology. Something like that would potentially work. I'm still waiting for, I don't know, Rogers used to do where you used to be able to do two different channels at one time. How is that not a thing in today's age?
Well, picture in picture? They used to be a thing, picture in picture.
Yeah, but
I don't know why that went away.
Yeah, or even just these new TVs. They're smart TVs. I should be able to have one app playing on one side of my screen, and then the
Well, it's four screen it. You should be able to four screen it on one, so you get a little quarter quadrant, and you can watch whatever the hell you want to watch.
I got a 65-inch TV. I got a lot of real estate to use there.
Right. I don't know why that's not a thing realistically. Or maybe it is, and I just haven't figured out how to do it yet.
Trust me, I've tried.
Well, then we've got to figure this out. I mean, there's so much stuff that they're trying to do with technology these days. Can we at least get a 4-box, a 4-screener?
My IPTV can do it, but I wanted to do it legally.
Right. Yeah, gotcha. But yeah, another win for the Maple Leafs. That's 2 in a row again, back on their winning ways. A win against a team that they should. Now, should they have won that game is maybe a different conversation, but a win is a win is a win. 4-1 was the final. And, I thought the Leafs, they came out, they started out decently, scored, obviously, Boston Matthews pretty quickly. He gets the party started. And then, I don't know, it seemed like they got a little lackadaisical and Chicago started to control the game a little bit. But when you've got good goaltending, I mean, you don't have to bring your A game each and every night, I guess, is what we're learning.
Yeah, that's been the saving grace of this team is, you know what? We talk about how good they've been defensively. Goaltending has played a big part in that because Anthony Stolarz, that might have been a top 3 performance for him on the year, I'd say.
Yeah.
The chances that he had to save that second period alone, he won them that game with that performance in the second period because Chicago was pushing Toronto, and we kind of knew that was going to happen. We knew they were it's a primetime game. They were going to try to do their best with the Leafs, right, and make the Leafs work for that win. But yeah, Stolarz says when you that, and it's the best goaltending on the best budget. That's what I love the most about you almost feel like every performance like this is a bonus, but it's it's tough to see it going a decline with the way that they've been able to roll both goalies right now.
Well, it could turn on a dime. We do know that. I mean, look what happened with Jack Campbell. That thing turned real quick when he was here in Toronto, and then even quicker when he was in Edmonton. But yeah, things are going well right now. The goaltending is playing well, the up front in front of them, and now they're getting some goal scoring. Right, the scoring at 5-on-5, which is something that prior to Matthews returning, we didn't see a whole lot of, and now that's what we're getting, some 5-on-5 goals, some offense. They're playing defense and goaltending. You mentioned the second period, how they got absolutely outworked last night. The shot attempts, 33-7 in the second period last night. 22-4 were the scoring chances for and against, and the high danger chances. They gave up 8 high danger chances in that period, only mustered up 1 themselves. So, yeah, it was not a good night for the Maple Leafs, and that second period was brutal, but they were able to carve out a win, right? And I think a big, an important part of the victory was the Minton goal. Like, they did give up and cut their lead in half, right? You end up, uh, who was it? Lucas Reichel scores when they're pushing, and it seems like, okay, this game is starting to tilt a little bit. And then right away, the Leafs get out there and Fraser Minton scores a nice goal and makes it 3-1 and kind of calms things again and gets the crowd back into it. So, I thought overall the Maple Leafs, they played okay, was not a great game, but they did enough to win. And I think that the story of last night was just flat out the goaltending. So that's how I saw it personally. I based on what we saw today, a little update from practice. Connor Timmins not going to play tomorrow night. It looks like he's going to sit up in the press box, and they're going to let Phil Myers play. It sounds like Jake McCabe is going to return to the game as well. So Myers in for Timmins. I think a big reason for that is because that Timmins and Benoit pairing absolutely got caved in last night. That wasn't a good outing for them. I think their shot attempts were like 22 to like 2 or something like that. Like, it was gross. I'm gonna double check it, but that was not a good night for that pairing.
It wasn't a great night, and they played a lot together. And like, if we were ever to say what does this team need to look at,
21-2, 21-2 were the shot attempts for and
good.
against. Yeah,
That's not very good. Like, if you're looking at things at this team, I know, like, when healthy, you're expecting Yanni Hakanpää, right, to play more in that role. But if you're thinking of like if they need to consider making a move at the trade deadline, that might be where you try to upgrade, right? That pairing right there.
totally.
So, and I think they, again, like, it hasn't been bad. There's been some good. There's been inconsistencies. Let's just say
It's a third pair. Ultimately, it's not like we're asking this third pair to be all stars here, but they're gonna have bad games. I don't think it's necessarily a major concern. I mean, there's been times where a Benoit Timmins pairing would be would be the least like top pair in the last like decade. It's so yeah. I mean, it's not a big concern, but it does look like Connor Timmins is going to get the night off, and they'll roll with Abe Myers and Simon Benoit for tomorrow night's game against the Nashville Predators. All right. Anything else stick out to you about this game before we get to 3 stars?
Nice to see Austin Matthews, you mentioned, get on the goals sheet.
Mhm.
Probably shouldn't leave the guy trailing in front, going to the net by himself. But thank you, Chicago, for that gift.
Yeah.
And Matthew Nyes, let's continue to put that out there. He's going to cost the Leafs a lot of money.
The expensive man. Expensive man. I remember we got flamed in the comments too, and we talked about it like before the season, trying to get this guy locked up to like a $5 million deal. It's the exact it's very similar to the Zach Hyman situation, except Hyman was a UFA, so he was, you want to try and lock him up, whereas Nye is a little bit of leverage there, but it's very similar where it's like you could foreshadow a big season coming up, a big role, and get ahead of it. The Leafs did not get ahead of it, and now it's going to cost them more money in the long run. And I remember we were flamed in the comment section for offering to pay this guy $5 million a year. I mean, this is 100% a guy worth $5 million a year, if not more. So,
if Zach Hyman was worth $5 million to people, I think Matthew Nyes is deserving of that as well.
He's got more goals than Zach Hyman. I'll say that.
10 goals in 22 games, 9 of them at even strength.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah.
decent production.
And now he's on, getting opportunities on the first unit power play, a little net front action for him. We're going to see some more pop in towards the, later third of the season, back half of the season.
And he's
But yeah,
top 5 in hits on this team as well.
and he's top 5 in hits. Loves to go into the corners, good on the forecheck. Does it all. Plays a sound role, exactly how Craig Berube wants people to be playing hockey. Matthew Nyes is giving him just that. All right, we'll come back with the 3 stars of the game. A little bit of news and notes from practice as well. Since we're recording a little bit later in the day, we have some practice updates from Monday. And then tomorrow, Dave, Canada announcing all 4 teams are announcing their teams for the 4 Nations Cup. We're going to project Canada's roster. How many Maple Leafs are on your roster? We'll answer that in a few minutes here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half, it doesn't return. PrizePicks keeps your lineup live. PrizePicks put its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this hockey season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast with myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morisuti, bringing you episodes each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. You can find the Locked On Leafs podcast wherever you get a podcast, audio-wise, and also up on YouTube. We're still on our road to 10K. We've got over 6,000 subscribers. We're hoping to get to 10,000 by the end of the season. And we'll be doing another big-time giveaway once we get there. So sub up, tell your friends, tell your family, and let's get us to 10,000 followers ASAP. It's all Leafs all the time here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. The Toronto Maple Leafs with a 4-1 win over the Chicago Blackhawks last night, breaking a 3-game losing streak to the Hawks, I might add. And we talked about it. This ain't your same Leaf squad. This ain't the same Keith Leaf. I mean, it kind of looked like it a little bit, I suppose, but they found a way to win the game, and they got the dub, and things are looking well for Toronto. And let's go through our 3 stars of the game like we do after each and every win. Dave, who's the first star of the night?
Well, I have to be the goalie. You got to give it to Anthony Stolarz.
No. Got to give me his nickname, buddy. I need it.
Stoli the goalie?
Stoli the goalie. Yes, sir.
It's God, I remember that. Like the Leafs were at 5-on-5. You talked about high danger chances, 14-8 at 5-on-5. Now it evened out a little bit when you include all the power play and stuff in there, but he faced a lot of rubber and he only allowed the 1 goal. And the 1 goal he did allow, his defenseman didn't cover. The one thing he needed to do was make sure you get the guy in front of the net on the rebound.
The man.
Yeah.
He didn't cover the man.
Didn't cover the man. And so, like, if you play that game again, it's a lot closer than a 4-1 score. Like,
yeah.
The scoreboard doesn't show how much Anthony Stolarz made sure that game kept it to 4-1. Like,
let me see what Money Puck says for the deserve to win-o-meter. I'd love to know. I'm gonna go and check right now.
One of my favorite things to do. The Leafs were always how badly did the Leafs bungle us because they probably should have won the game.
Yeah, usually they're on the other end of it, right? Like usually there were like 63% chance should win the game, and we're talking about that in a loss. Over 100 simulations, Dave. The Blackhawks deserve to win 62.7% of the games. So the Leafs only 37 times, 37% of the time should win that game. And last night was one of them, and luckily it's the only one that counts. So works out. And the reason why they won is absolutely because of Stoli, the goalie. I mean, he was great. Especially in that second period. We talked about it in the opening frame. When he was on his game, when the Blackhawks were pushing, they got one, but they weren't able to really capitalize on that pressure because he was able to make some big stops, like a couple of stops on Donato there. Mikheyev was going hard to the net. There's a couple of opportunities that Chicago had to score. Was it Murphy? The nice glove stop on Connor Murphy, with traffic in front. So, but Anthony Stolarz, he said, "Hey, Wooly, the goalie's making me look bad here because he's putting out good effort after good effort. I gotta get my name back in the limelight." I thought he did a pretty damn good job doing that last night. I mean, 2.81 goals saved above expectation. Ended up with 27 to 28 saves on the night. Couple of grade A saves as well. Stolarz is, I'm not going to say solely, but the biggest reason for why the Maple Leafs came away with 2 points last night. So he absolutely gets the number 1 star. Your number 2 star of the night.
I'm going to go with the line of Holmberg, Tavares, and Marner.
Oh, a little cheater. Taking the whole line, huh?
Doing the whole line. I mean, Marner had the best game score.
Yeah, I had Marner. As my second star.
2 assists. Probably should have had a goal. He had that one that went off the crossbar.
Yeah.
Pisses
me off. I had a Marner shots prop as one of my best bets. You didn't get a single shot on net. Hit the bar, but didn't get an actual shot. I was so pissed. Anyways, continue.
I'm sorry to hear that, Mike.
FanDuel took my money.
Yeah, they did. But I again, that line has been so stable, right? Pontus Holmberg has looked decent on it, right? Since he's come into the fold. And I mean, Marner's played a lot of minutes. I think he leads right now. I think he leads the Leafs in time on ice. He is a forward, ladies and gentlemen. A forward generally does not lead the team in ice time. He is playing a lot, and it's not showing up as like something that's harmed. Maybe it's something they're gonna have to watch as the year goes along, and that'll eventually counteract itself once you get Matthews back into the fold, and you can start playing that line a little bit more because they're just getting him back up to speed.
Yeah, the thing too is that like the schedule is kind of allowed for it.
Yeah,
right in the last month. Now going forward, where you got games every other night, not so much. But the last couple of days, yeah, it's worked out very well in the last few weeks where they played 4 games in like an 18-day span. It was wild how little hockey was being played here.
Yeah, so I've really appreciated what that line has done, because again, you lose McMahon. Pontus Holmberg is not exactly a Bob McMahon, but it's worked, right? So it'll be a nice when he does come back, and I think that line will be humming again.
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought that he was the best forward out on the ice for the Maple Leafs last night as well. And I mean, there was only one player on the Maple Leafs who had a positive expected goal differential, and it was Mitch Marner last night. And he was kind of all over the place. He had a couple opportunities, but it's the defensive play that I really, really admire about Marner's game. Like, you're talking about a guy who only had 30% O-zone starts, only 30% of his starts were in the offensive zone, 7 D-zone start face-offs that he took last night, and somehow is still favored when it comes to the shot share when he's out there, 5-4, high danger chances when he's out there, 6-4 in scoring chances, couple of high danger chances. Like, didn't get a whole lot of starts in the offensive end, but he made sure that they got the puck transitioned upward, and ended up, I think he ended up with 2 blocks as well, is what he was credited with last night. So for me, yes, Mitch Marner, a couple apples, couple blocks, doing it all. Full 200-foot game last night out of him. He gets my second star as well. And then the third star, Dave.
I'm going to go a little off the board here. I'm going to give a little shout out to one Steven Lorentz.
Oh, I like it. Go ahead.
I was thinking of also throwing a shout out to Fraser Minton, but I'll throw that in a second here. But Steven Lorentz, thank you to Kevin Papetti for this. He has not been on the ice for a 5-on-5 goal against since October 22nd against the Columbus Blue Jackets. That was 17 games ago. So 17 straight games that he has not been on the ice for a 5v5 goal against.
Pretty impressive. That's impressive for a fourth line. Like that's all you ask for out of a guy who I was technically playing third line, I guess, last night, but
Yeah.
that's what you ask for out of a bottom six guy. Don't get scored on, and if you can, provide a little bit more offense, but don't get scored on is number one. And he's been doing just that.
Yeah, I've really again, just another signing that's worked out so well.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, again, he's not the flashiest player, but he's doing exactly what this team needs, which is be on the positive end of the goal differential. And we've had so many times where these fourth liners have been on the negative end of it. So any thought I have that signing, again, just a low key great signing that's worked out so well because he's played very solid. And you know what you're going to get out of him every single night.
Yeah, just plays a simple game. Simple straight line hockey, and that's what this coaching staff is asking of players like Laurent. So, yeah, for sure, we'll give a little shout out to him. I gave it to the penalty kill. I thought they were excellent last night. Killed off all four of the penalties that they took. There's a 5-on-3 that they had to kill off as well. They only gave up 2 shots on goal throughout the entire night on the penalty kill. So, they were doing a good job of keeping things to the perimeter, getting in shooting lanes, getting in passing lanes, and not allowing Chicago to really muster up a whole lot of offense while on the man advantage. It looked reminiscent to what the Maple Leafs looked like during that one little stretch earlier in the season. But yeah, I thought the PK, Mitch Marner obviously is one of those guys. Steven Lorentz is one of those guys who, are blocking shots on the penalty kill. I thought that as a whole, the unit played really, really well. So wanted to give a love to the PK, get them the 3rd star of the game.
Also, I wanted to give a shout out to Fraser Minton for scoring again last night. 2 goals on the year.
So 4 points. 4 points in 5 games for Minton now?
Yep. You know who also has 2 goals this year, Mike? Someone who was picked in the same draft as this kid. First overall pick, Yuri Slafkovsky.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Connor Bedard for a sec.
No.
Slafkovsky only has 2 goals?
Only 2 goals this year.
My word. Well, Fraser Minton's better than Slafkovsky. There you have it, folks. That's what Dave just said. Dave just said Minton is better than Slafkovsky. Bang. Heard it here first on the Locked On Leafs podcast.
It is crazy though. Like somebody put that out there. Someone put that out there. I shared with a group of friends of mine, and it just everyone's laughing just because. Again, like Minton has just been in the right spot. That was such a weird goal too. Like just bounce off the boards, bounce off the net. All right, I'm gonna just wire this.
So Berube talked about it after the game, though, and I guess it was part of the pre-scout that they knew that Soderblom was a little aggressive coming out to play pucks. So I guess Timmins kind of knew, so he thought, all right, he might be out of position. If I can just swing this out in front, to Minton cutting to the net, might be able to get him, catch him a little bit, and obviously they did. So yeah, it goes. That's a credit to the coaching staff and a credit to the players for taking that information and making plays with it. All right, coming up on the other side, let's take a look at our projected rosters for the Canada Four Nations Cup tournament or the Four Nations Cup tournament. Take a look at Canada's roster. I guess is a better way to put that. How many Maple Leafs do you think make the roster? We know Mitch Marner, but does anyone else have a good case? We'll talk about that next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NHL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NHL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Network. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morisuti with you here. It is Tuesday, December 3rd, and on Wednesday, December 4th, the rosters will be announced for the Four Nations Cup. Now, apparently, all the rosters over the weekend were already finalized, but the announcements not happening until tomorrow. So I believe most players got the calls because I thought I saw there was some celebrations going on in Washington, I think. Philly, yes, right. It was Philadelphia where some of the players were celebrating. Was Konechny one of those, by the way, who was celebrating?
Yes. Yep. Apparently Konechny and I'm hearing Travis Sanheim too.
Yeah. So Travis Sanheim and Konechny were celebrating a little bit. Sanheim Canadian? No, American.
Yeah, Sanheim's Canadian.
Oh, he is Canadian too. Oh, well, guess I might have to make a quick adjustment to my roster prediction. All right, so we're going to go through our roster predictions here and discuss who we think is going to make Team Canada. So why don't you go first with your forward group, and then I'll go my forwards, and we'll trade back the rest.
Yeah, this is, again, such a tough year to kind of predict things, but down the middle, I think it's pretty safe to say I got McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby. I'm going to put Scheifele in there. Scheifele has had such a good year this year. And then on the wings, I got Braden Point, Sam Reinhart, Brandon Hagel, of course, Mitch Marner, the Leaf representative. Brad Marchand, we already know is going to be there. As we found out, Travis Konechny has also been known to be there. This is where it gets tricky. I have Mark Stone in there. Whether he's actually going to play, because you know that an injury could pop up with Mark Stone at any point. I'm kind of hesitant on whether he'll actually make it come around. And 13th forward. Oh, sorry. Anthony Cirelli, because I think you're going to have John Cooper is going to labor hard to have Anthony Cirelli on that team. And then, unfortunately, I don't have John Tavares on my team. I think he just misses out. I think they're going to want to get a little bit of sandpaper on this team, and I think they're going to go with Sam Bennett.
You are a hater.
I think John Tavares is like a close lock. He is close to making this team. He might be, if there's an injury, he might be one of the guys that gets called in.
John Tavares is having such a good season. I don't think enough people are really talking about it. Like, I know we have been beating the drum all season long, and especially like the 5-on-5 numbers, which haven't necessarily been there in the past. They've been there this year. Like, he's a point per game player right now. 11 goals, 11 assists, 22 points through 23 games. He's a +7. He's playing, nearly 18 minutes a game. Like, he's playing some pretty sound hockey right now, and he can get it done on both ends of the ice. That's the thing. He's reliable as a kind of a 200-foot player. So he actually did make my roster. I do have John Tavares on Team Canada's roster.
Good, Mike.
Yeah, well, I'm for the people, and you're not. Obviously, you hate the Leafs. We've established that already. Absolutely. Yeah. You should probably give me that thing hanging behind you over your shoulder.
Yeah, John Tavares, you have a signed jersey of me behind you, and you just
he'd be ashamed. He'd be ashamed of you. But my roster looked very similar in terms of the players. I had them, putting a little bit of a different lineup. But I've got McDavid, Crosby, Point, and Scheifele as my centers. I got Point at the center position. On the wings, I've got Reinhart and Marner with McDavid, Marchand and McKinnon with Crosby. So I got McKinnon on the wing. Hagel and Point, or Hagel and Stone with Point. Wouldn't that be a great third line? Yeah, Brandon Hagel, Braden Point, and Mark Stone. What a third line that would be. How are you going to score on them? You're not.
How are you going to score them, and they can score?
Exactly. It's just a quality third line. And again, a big thing is with these tournaments, sometimes they do look at, like, all right, who does these players play well with? So we look at Brandon Hagel. He's having a great season. The guy's got like 30 points this year. So he may be able to make the case by himself. But when you look at, the duo of Hagel and Point together in a tournament where there's not much, practice and there's not a lot of time to gain chemistry. Sometimes having a teammate and bringing like that guy's line mate helps. So I think Hagel and Point allow that to kind of happen. And then I've got Tavares as a winger on the fourth line with Scheifele and Konechny. So that was kind of the fourth line that I came up with. Tavares, Scheifele, and Konechny. I didn't put a 13th forward. I guess I probably should have. But I guess I don't know, like Laffy's probably in the conversation.
Yeah, Lafreniere was also another guy.
Do you think was Hyman on your list?
No.
So that's the interesting one. Like we're talking about Hagel and Point and that kind of duo, but like McDavid and Hyman going into the season, he was almost a lock. Now, not so much. Like the guys just hadn't scored, and he still has not. Like, how could you possibly put him on your team at this point, right?
It's just so tough, right? Like you're looking at a body of work of not just last year. Yeah, last year he had such a great year, but like there are guys who are having better years than him this year. Like
far better. He's got 3 goals, man. 3 goals. Like, that's it.
Like it would if he were to make it on. And let's say like a John Tavares doesn't make it. Like what I know he had a good year last year, but Tavares has got more to offer to the table. He's a center. Yes, I know Hyman can kill penalties, but Tavares has also been the better producer this year too. And he's got a pretty good resume with Team Canada.
Yes.
I think people need to remember that too. Like it's not, they also factor in how guys have played with Team Canada in the past.
Which is why Tavares kind of got a nod for me.
Mm-hmm.
The long history he has with Team Canada and the program. The other player that I guess maybe could count as like a 13th forward who I gave some slight consideration to was Dylan Strome. He's playing fantastic out in Washington. And, even though they lost Ovechkin, they're still kind of chugging out there in Washington. So Dylan Strome, he could be an argument for a 13th forward, possibly.
Yeah.
Someone who can play wing, he can play center, he could play on the power play. So he's proven that he can play with star players also. So I kind of like Dylan Strome as a possibility too. And Dylan Strome played with McDavid once upon a time. Again, talking about chemistry, right?
Yeah, I forgot about those days.
Yeah. Could you imagine if we get to see a line of like Strome, McDavid, Marner, like 3 of the top 4 picks from that draft?
Yeah.
2016 on one line together. That'd be cool.
It would be cool.
Your blue line, sir.
This one again is tough. Like Cale Makar for sure. Alex Pietrangelo for sure. Josh Morrissey. Now it kind of changed a little bit. Now we know Travis Sanheim is more than likely going to be there, so I threw him onto the list. Shea Theodore, Mackenzie Weegar, and
Weegar.
Yeah, I've been a big Mackenzie Weegar guy.
And you got Drew Doughty on there too. So like, I didn't have Drew Doughty on my list because I don't know if he's gonna be healthy and like ready to go, and how good is he gonna be?
My logic is if he's not healthy, you go and you bring in another guy.
Yeah, for sure. But like, is he even gonna be?
He'll be the 7th defenseman.
Will he be any good at that point? Like,
if he's
trained like that,
I think they're probably talking with doctors in LA to figure out where he at. Like he's been out since preseason, so like this has been a few months, right? You have to think at some point he's going to be on the ice soon, right?
Yeah,
training.
Right.
So I have him on there just because you could like him as your 7th defenseman. If he's not good to go, Dougie Hamilton would likely be my alternate. Yeah. And please, people saying Evan Bouchard, I don't need Evan Bouchard throwing a pizza up the middle, costing this team in a game. I understand he's got a great slap shot from the point. You got Cale Makar to provide you offense. You don't need Evan Bouchard.
There you go. I'm with you. They definitely do not need Evan Bouchard. I've got Cale Makar obviously on my thing, but I do also have Dougie Hamilton on my list. I did have Dougie. Our defense looks a little different. I've got Taze and Makar as that top pair. I mean, they've been a pairing together for years. Keep it rolling with Canada. I've got Morrissey and Dougie Hamilton. together, and then I've got Shea Theodore and Petrangelo, and then I had Noah Dobson as like my 7th defenseman.
You're a big Noah Dobson guy. I know that.
Do like Noah Dobson a lot. I do think he's a good. He had like 60 points last year. He's pretty solid. What's he got this year? I think he's still chugging with a decent amount of points. But Travis Sanheim, I guess maybe I flip him out and put Sanheim in there. Sanheim's already made the team. I guess I gotta throw some love out to Travis Sanheim. So, or maybe they can go roll with 8 defensemen, possibly.
They could. I just know Travis Sanheim has gone a lot of. Like I didn't realize how good of a year he's having, but he's like a defensive defenseman. We don't really hear about those guys.
He's got 15 points too, so like he's incorporating that two-way game into it, right? So he's got the same amount of points as Petrangelo right now. So
wow,
yeah, and Lane Hudson, who apparently is the second coming of Cale Makar, if you ask all those, or maybe more of a Quinn Hughes, I guess, if you ask people out in Montreal. But yeah, he's got 15 points as a rook, which is not bad. Dash 11 though, I might add. But anyways, this is not a Lane Hudson slander party.
You've been slandering the Canadians a lot. We were just
Slavkovsky, Hudson. Yeah, we have been taking some shots at them, eh? Anyone that like, who was the guy that for you was like I want to put him on the roster, but like just outside looking in type of thing?
Like, other than Hamilton, I thought about Parayko. I thought he's been doing half decent against St. Louis has been so bad that I think it kind of keeps again. I like Parayko and Dobson were guys I thought about, but like they have Canada has so many quality two-way guys that can provide offense and defend, right? Like Parayko would be a good defender, right? But that's also why I went with Weegar over him. I thought Weegar has been kind of the best of both worlds, and in that regard, Montour I also thought about, but I'm like, I just think
Ekblad didn't get much consideration.
No, I didn't think Ekblad because honestly, he might be a guy that gets hurt even before he's just one injury away. Again, you could just replace him, but I think Ekblad's been good, but I think there's been better guys, and like that's just the benefit Canada has. They have so many options that they can go with.
Who'd you pick in net?
Yeah, so I'm gonna sound boring, but I think Logan Thompson has clinched a spot for me.
I agree.
With the way he played this year. Aiden Hill, like it's one of those. I think if hopefully he just plays well enough, he won a cup. He did pretty good in that cup run, and I don't want to pick him, but I just think this is not like who I want. It's who I think, and I think Jordan Binnington is going to be like the third goalie.
Yeah, I've got the same 3 goalies. I just like Logan Thompson, Aiden Hill. To me, were 2 guys who've been playing well. I guess Aiden Hill is kind of on the outside looking in for me. I don't know. There is a lot of love out there though for Cam Talbot, and like he has okay numbers. He got a .915 save percentage, but I can't see a world where they go with Cam Talbot. I really can't. I'd rather like Marc-Andre Fleury. If they're gonna go with a veteran, take Flower over a guy like Cam Talbot for me.
And like you think about the quality of the team, I understand like Detroit's not the best team, but he's barely the number 1 guy there.
Oh right? Yeah.
He has good numbers, but he's not playing every night. So how can you establish him as as a number 1 guy if he's not even the number 1 on his team?
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of it for me. I also went Hill, Binnington, and Thompson. Those are the 3 for me that are going to end up making it. But dude, it's a bleak list. I mean, it's no secret. We've talked about it a lot, and everyone's talked about how poor the goaltending has been in Canada over the last decade or so. Like since Carey Price, there has not been anyone who's even come close to establishing themselves as like a franchise goaltender that's come out of Canada. And we keep hearing, oh, it could be this player, it could be that guy. Oh, maybe this will be the future in net for Canada. And rarely does it end up happening. And somehow maybe it's Logan Thompson, guy who played at Brock University, like in 6 years ago. So it's funny. And Jordan Binnington was in the AHL, 6 months before winning a Stanley Cup and becoming a
Mhm.
top tier goaltender. Aiden Hill has been traded to like 3 times early in his career before finally establishing himself as a Stanley Cup winning goaltender. So, it's a lot of journeymen, I guess, that are making it through for Canada. Hopefully, at some point, we do start to churn out, we as a country, I guess, a goaltender where we could say, all right, boom, we know who it's going to be, right? Like that Shesterkin, that Hellebuck
Yeah.
style of goalie. Although Shesty's kind of, oh, he hasn't looked great the last couple of games. That Rangers squad's in a little bit of trouble. They've been skidding. They've been skidding,
Yeah.
that's for sure. Other Leafs who are expected to be named to rosters, obviously Austin Matthews will be on Team USA. Nylander we expect to be named to Team Sweden. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, you think he's done enough to book a spot on Sweden?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think a veteran guy, you're going to get out of him. So I think I like OEL. I think he's had a good year, but I'm just trying to think who else would be above him.
Well, there's just a lot of Swedish defensemen. I mean,
Like-
obviously, like you've got Victor Hedman, Dahlin, Carlson, Forsling,
like Ekholm.
Ekholm, like
He might be
Broberg
on the
in
outside
mix.
looking in. He might go. They might go and fade. Like they do have a deep blue line, so he might
Adam
be on the
Larson.
outside looking in.
Yeah, man, Sweden just pumps out defensemen. That's what they do.
Yeah.
They pump out defensemen. Rasmus Sandin. Sandin's got 13 points.
He does.
Plus 18. Rasmus Sandin. Is that an NHL leading plus 18? Because that's pretty high. No, Orlov's plus 19. Rasmus Sandin, second in the NHL at plus 18 for plus minus. That's kind of wild. But yeah, I don't know if anyone else really makes it. I guess you would have Tavares on that list as like a possibility. He was on my team, so like Tavares is in that conversation.
He's in the conversation for sure.
Anyone else like in consideration or conversation, you think?
I
don't believe so. Like
I don't think so.
Stolarz won't get the opportunity, but like he should based on how he's played. But there's just so many good American goalies. Like you got Hellebuck, you got Ottinger, and then like could he possibly vie for that third spot if Demko's not healthy and ready to go? I guess he could, but there's just so many good American goaltenders. It's tough. There's a lot of competition there, which is funny because he'd be the number one if he were Canadian. So maybe consider getting a passport change, possibly be a Canadian citizen and play for Canada. Yeah. What about that?
I think a couple Americans might have an issue with that type of thing, but go for it. Go for it.
All right. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. The rosters will be announced tomorrow, by the way, and we'll react to it. We'll see how many we got right, how many we got wrong. And so we'll take a look at that on tomorrow's show and also tee up Leafs and Preds. You could be at that game, right?
I will be at that game, yes.
Yeah, nice. So we'll tee that up on tomorrow's show. But that does it for us here today. I'd like to thank you for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On at Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morisuti and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode tomorrow. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.